and welcome to Confessions. I'm your host of Light, Jenny Watson. I'm a personal empowerment coach, Numerology astrologer, and past life reader. And my mission is to provide a safe space for people to step into their darkness to explore their brightest of lights. And that's what Confessions is all about. Tonight, we'll be talking about our most profound travel experiences. You know, sometimes our journeys hold a key to unlocking our souls, our spirituality, or even hold important lessons for us. It's a subject that's near and dear to my heart, as I absolutely love to travel and explore. So much so that I am proud to announce the release of my very first book, Butterfly Travels. It's a story of my personal transformation to self-discovery through the travels that I've gone through. So I invite you to check it out if you're interested. I am now available on Amazon and Kindle and CreateSpace. All the links will be posted in the video below. So I bare my soul so that you know that you're not alone in this human experience, because we all experience those emotions and the everyday challenges and joys. So I thought, why not create a book about it that people can relate to? So talking about travel experiences, it's perfectly timed. Joining me tonight is a group of beautiful women with amazing stories to tell. It's my honor to introduce Rosaletta. She's an oracle and spiritual medium. So welcome to Confessions, Rose.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
And we also have Jenny Seek, who is an intuitive counselor and reader. So welcome aboard, Jenny.
Thank you so much.
I'm really excited to hear about your experiences. I think that travel is amazing. I mean, obviously I'm inspired by it, and I just hear people have these creative stories and these profound experiences, and I think people need to hear about them because it opens up so much when we step outside of our box and allow these experiences in. So before I even go into that, are you ladies ready to bare your soul?
Absolutely.
Woo! Well, before we get into actual experiences, I want to learn a little bit more about you. You both are newbies to Confessions, so first of all, welcome to Confessions in that sense, and I want to hear a little bit more about who you are and what you do and why travel inspires you so much. So, Rose, let's start with you. Let's tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, and thanks for having me. I'm glad to be a first-timer. So I am what would be described as an oracle. I used to call myself a psychic medium, and I had a very profound experience where I was able to talk to my guides through a trance channel, so physically talk to my guides, who explained to me that oracle would be a better description of what I do. And oracle means that I'm able to connect not only energetically to the spiritual world, but I actually hear and communicate directly with higher beings, specifically the Ascended Masters. So what I do is I connect people to deceased loved ones through the realms on the other side, and I also connect with their personal guardian angels or spirit guides, and also the Ascended Masters, who are my teachers, who guide me through what I do.
Excellent. And how did you come on this path? What guided you here?
Well, actually, it started with traveling. That's exactly how I had my awakening process. So when I was 20 years old, I had an opportunity just come up that a friend who lived in the Middle East had a apartment, a family home in Egypt, and invited me to visit. And I jumped on that opportunity, and I just said yes when the universe called. And this was long before I understood all of that consciously. And it was through those travels to Egypt that the awakening process happened for me. And it took my consciousness time to catch up to understanding how that happened and why, and the energies behind that, and the understanding of how the awakening process happens in our human bodies. So it was through my travel to Egypt that I had my big awakening, and then a succession of travels after that kind of helped me along my process of growing and expanding in that.
Love that. Fabulous. So, Jenny, how about you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I do intuitive counseling. I work with people to energetically figure out how to get them to tap into their intuition. I've noticed that a lot of people have a story, and when they stop listening to their intuition or don't open their intuition or aren't supported in that arena, their lives kind of go flatlined. And so I help them to explore what that intuitive story, what that intuitive journey looks like, and reframe their lives. So, and then I also do intuitive tarot reading as well, and teach classes and things like that. So.
Very cool. So how did you come to know that that was part of your path?
Well, I was teaching in Montessori school years ago, and it just wasn't the right fit, and so I decided to take some time off. And instead of running out and looking for another job frantically, I decided to sit on my back porch and meditate and ask my guides, ask the angels, ask the different energies in the universe what it was I was really called to do, not what my vocation was. And I was told I was supposed to read tarot cards and supposed to design intuitive jewelry for people. So I started doing some dream work and also started reading for people, and then just built up a practice doing that. And it just really felt like the right fit, and a lot of doors open. As we both probably know, that doors open when you get out of the way and you listen more deeply. So, and that was kind of the beginning of the end. So, or the beginning.
The beginning of the beginning.
The beginning of the beginning, yeah.
I love that. So were you ladies did you always love travel, or is that something you kind of stumbled upon, or was it just a one-time experience that you're going to share and you hate traveling? So what is it like for you? Jenny, how about you?
I love to travel. It just what you were talking about in the very beginning of the show. It opens you up in a different way. You know, we work so hard in our lives sometimes, and we kind of get in this place where it's hard to open up to these different, more subtle energies, and travel just opens us up, just like, explodes us open, and allows us to see different perspectives, different ways of viewing things, different kinds of people, and just opens us up differently. So I've always loved to travel since I was tiny, for sure.
Awesome, love it. How about you, Rose?
Yes, I'm a number 5 in numerology, so that's the adventurer, the traveler. So it's just in my wiring. And since I was a child, I've always been fascinated by cultures and languages. And through that, I've always been fascinated by different places and travels. And I had my first opportunity to travel abroad when I was 18, and I literally for probably the next 7 years lived abroad and traveled and spent my time doing that, traveling and getting to know the world. And I found through that, now I understand that I had a lot of past life connections in the places that I traveled to. And I didn't realize that I was traveling to I was drawn to the places that I had past lives. So it's interesting now, being an oracle, being able to understand that and see the full circle of how my soul, without consciously understanding it, was actually traveling to these places I had been before, and to energetic grid points in our earth, that I was actually going and receiving downloads in these physical places on our earth without even consciously being aware of it.
Absolutely. I know exactly what you're talking about, because that happened for me. I took a trip with my sister to Ireland where we have family roots. But there was something much deeper than that, just being like, oh, I have family, here's where my ancestors come from. It's like I knew I was connected there.
Right.
And I traveled out to California, and the instant I got there, I got in a rental car and I knew exactly where I was driving, and it was insane. I'm like,
isn't that amazing?
I've never been here before. How is this possible? I just knew exactly where I was going. So I believe that as well, that, our soul's blueprint, like, our soul's history knows these places and the energetic connection there. And I think that's what's fascinating about travel to me too, is that you get there and you feel the sense of home. And there's just a comfort in this.
You remember.
And then I love the other side of the spectrum. When you go somewhere where you have no clue where you are, you don't have the energetic connection, but then it opens up to show you something different that you haven't experienced yet. So I love that flip side. So Jenny, Absolutely. How about for you? How has that felt for you? How have you found your travels to be like?
Well, I'm kind of giggling because we went on a trip to Ireland too, and it was amazing. I mean, we went to this one. I had a friend who wanted a piece of rowan wood, and I said, well, I'll try to get you one. And wherever you go, it's hard to find certain things sometimes, and so I couldn't find it, and I had kind of given up, and ended up in a cemetery in Glendalough. and just had kind of just said, okay, this isn't probably going to happen. And I was on the trip with my family, and so there was all these kind of stressors about how to experience the trip. You know, they were talking about, St. Christopher, and I was looking at like the standing stones, and so there was a certain amount of tension in terms of the way we were interpreting what was going on. And in the cemetery, I kind of just did this tiny little ritual circle kind of thing. And on the way out of the cemetery, there was this beautiful staff just laying against this gravestone. And I picked it up and I took it and I have it to this day. And it's a very powerful piece, this staff. And I do think that like energies call to us and give us gifts, and when we least expect it, and when we've kind of given up and we're just in a place of gratitude, instead of in a place of trying to get something to happen. So.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I found, that, we're here to talk about some of the profound experiences, but profound is not always this life-altering, huge, go to this big exotic place type thing. It's sometimes in the littlest, you go to your local city and something happens or an awareness is revealed to you. So what kind of little experiences have happened to you that you think have shaped part of who you are?
Oh, I have a great one, if I can go.
Go for it.
I had a dream in October of 2012 that I was supposed to move to Colorado. And I woke up from the dream, and it was, it was right before December 2012, so there was all that kind of panic of what's going to happen in the world. So I thought, okay, maybe I'm getting moved to the mountains for a reason. So, and I at this point, I know to trust my intuition, whatever that is. And so I ended up moving to Colorado. I just, found a city I liked and just picked up and moved there. And this is from years of learning that when these things happen and the universe sends these opportunities or these signs, you say yes and miracles unfold. Absolutely. So I end up going to Colorado, and I think, okay, well, maybe I'm here, for my children. There's a fantastic Waldorf charter school. It's a great opportunity. So I go and I sign my kids up for this charter school. And we are like fifth on the wait list for the lottery, so there's almost no chance of my children getting in. So they get picked, they get in, and I get this welcome email and a link to join their meetup group. And at this point, I had never heard of meetup group, and so I started poking around there. I'm in a new city, and it's a little tiny small town in northern Colorado. And in the meetup group, I find a link for psychic development. And so I click on it, and they have a meeting that evening. And so I say, okay, well, this is kind of what I'm interested in. I might as well go check this out. So I ended up going to the psychic development group, and I ended up finding my people. I found my home, and that led me to these teachers who were connected through that group from Wales that travel to the States a few times a year to teach these development courses. They ended up being part of my soul group and my mentors and the people who really gave me the gift of my mediumship. They taught me everything I know as far as how to connect and believing in myself and really using that to help others and to develop that gift. So it was through just this little tiny, thing that I never thought would turn into that. Now it changed the course of my life. This is who I am now. This is who I was born to be, and that was the link that connected me.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
Very cool. Jenny, how about for you?
Well, several years ago, when I started working with clients to do the intuitive tarot reading and that sort of thing, I was really curious as to why it worked on a larger level. And so I applied to a school called Pacifica Graduate Institute. It's a Jungian-focused counseling program. And at the same time, I had this dream about being on this high stack of pillows in the air, like 3 miles in the air or something. And I was sitting up there, and I was just like not moving very much because I knew if I moved, I would fall. But in the dream, I was like, well, if I fall, I'll be somewhere besides on this tall stack of pillows. You can make what you will of the symbolism. But I allowed myself to fall and was fine and fell in amongst all these pillows. And I fell in this seal cove, which seal is my primary animal totem. And so I was like, wow, this is amazing. And when I went out to California to go to Pacifica, walked down the beach in Carpinteria, and there's the seal cove from my dream. So it was amazing. It was like, And to me, it was a symbol of all of the people there who represented that kind of seal-like, playful energy of the unconscious and connecting with water energy and all of that. So.
I love it. That's so funny. It reminds me of one of my stories where I went out to San Diego to visit one of my friends to have Thanksgiving. You know, my ex had the kids that year, so I was going to be a little explorer on my off years. And I go out to see her, and we have it. And the next day we go to the beach, and I'm sitting there. All of a sudden, I start playing with the sand, and I create like a turtle. And so I make a little turtle, and I give him eyes and a little smile, and I draw a heart on his back, and he was really, really cute, and I loved it. I'm like, okay, why am I making a turtle? I'm here at the beach. Do you think I'm making a sandcastle? I'm a princess after all. So I said this little turtle, and then all of a sudden I take my finger, and I just stick a hole in, like, right by the heart on his back, and I'm like, let me just put a hole there. Really weird. I kid you not, like, so my friend was joking. She's like, oh, maybe it's an easy button or something. She's like, but maybe it's something yet to be unraveled. So we end up going to a meditative garden after that and to a shop. And I always love going places, and wherever I go, even if it's like a shot glass or a pen or something, I always bring something back from my cabinet as a token of where I've been. But I had said to her, I said, you know what, I don't want just a token from here. I feel like I want something more. She's like, well, put it out there and you'll be led to the right thing. Well, we're in this shop, and I walk, and she goes, Jenny, you are not going to believe what I just found. There was this little turtle incense holder with the hole exactly where I had put it in the turtle.
That is awesome.
Since then, I embraced the turtle as my totem animal because I didn't really connect to animals too well. So I said, oh my gosh, that's so perfect for me because I live life in the fast lane. Like, everything's like rush, 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 gotta get it done, gotta get it done. I'm like, oh, slow down. Okay,
turtle.
But it was amazing because you're like, what is the symbolism of this little hole I just poked in this little love turtle? And there it was.
And there it is.
Like, so, you know, you telling me about the seal coat and everything and how it all connects. It is amazing how when we're open to it, the connections that come in and the messages that we receive.
Yep.
So I want to get into, like, the stories that we came on to talk about, like the profound stories. You know, we all go through life. Sometimes profoundness happens right in our own home, in our own backyard. Others, it happens abroad. So you both happen to have travel abroad stories, and I'd love for you to share them with our audience. So, Rose, why don't we start with you first? Tell us a little bit about your experience.
Sure. So I kind of started with it. When I was 20, I got an invitation from a friend to go to Egypt. So, of course, I said yes and hopped on that. And at this point, I had already been traveling for about 2 years abroad. So this was my biggest trip. And at this time, I'm a Pisces, and I've always been intuitive. I've always connected with spirit, but I didn't have the conscious understanding. I mean, this is before Facebook and the internet and YouTube and all these things. So, you know, I didn't have all that knowledge that we have now. And so I was kind of on my own in my travels. So I go to Egypt, and it's beautiful, and I'm just connected there. And I don't know why, but it just feels so mystical and magical, and there's just something amazing about it. And so we went there the first night, and then I asked to go back the second night again. I just had to be there. And so, both times I went there, it was at sunset. And I didn't realize the significance of that either, but there was something about the time and the energy there. And when I got back from my travels, the very next day I had flown 30 hours, traveling 30 hours back to the States. So I was exhausted. I come back to Portland, Oregon, where my mom is, and she gives me a call and says, there's a psychic fair. Do you want to go? And I'd never been to a psychic fair before, and I thought, well, yeah, I'm tired, but I really want to go. So, again, I just literally got off the plane from being in Egypt at the pyramids. And I go to this little tiny psychic fair. It's in Salem, Oregon, little tiny thing. And my mom says, why don't I get you a reading? You've never had a reading before. So I get this reading, and I sit down with this woman, and she says, I have to tell you, when you walked in, you had this line of angels behind you, around the corner, and all the way down the block. I've never seen anything like it. And she goes on to tell me this reading about how I'm going to become this medium, and I'm going to have this following, and I'm going to help the world in this way and that way. And, at this time, I'm 20 years old. None of this made any sense to me. And so I'm thinking, okay, whatever. And she goes on to tell me right up until, my 50s of what's going to happen to me. And so I just kind of think, okay, well, that's interesting, and I walk away. She gives me her card, and she says, I'm going to be your mentor. Call me. And so I just take her card, and I think, okay, whatever. So I end up going to a bookstore, and like that week, and in that bookstore, a book falls off of the shelf right when I'm walking by. And I look down, and it's Doreen Virtue's angel book. At that time, I think it was Healing the Angels. And like really, it falls out right in front of me at my feet. And so I pick up the book, and it instantly made me think of the woman who said that I had all the angels with me. And so I end up calling her, and she became my first mentor. And it was literally what had happened is I somehow, when I went to the pyramid, got activated. I got my activation and opened up, and I was ready at that point. And so they say, you know, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, and that's what happened for me. And so that was my first kind of connection into this. And I really, now that I understand more about the pyramids, I understand it's sacred geometry, that specific shape is a conduit to expand and magnify the energy, and the Great Pyramids are aligned right directly under the Pleiades. So now that I have the information and the understanding of that, I understand why all of that happened. But at the time, it was just that subtle intuition, that little voice and an opportunity that says, here, you know, take this opportunity, and there's purpose behind that. So that's what I learned through my travels, really, is that when you get that message to go and the universe calls you, say yes, and miracles unfold.
I love that. And you know what? Ever since I was a little girl, I've always wanted to go to Egypt. I've been called through there. I know I have a past life connection there. I know like the same kind of profoundness would happen if I show up there. I also hear that it's not safe right now. But I really don't care. Like I want to go see them. I don't want to be held back because of bullshit.
Fear.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm not afraid, but the bullshit of like everybody else's fear, you know?
Yeah. Well, I lived in the Middle East. I went to college in Dubai, and that was right after September 11th. So, you know, I believe that the spirit protects you, and the spirit world protects you when you're meant and you have a destiny to go someplace. So I don't worry about those things. Absolutely,
I don't worry about them either. I just have like an overprotective mom. And
yeah, right.
Did you make your will out yet in case something happens to you? What would happen to your kid? All that kind of stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I am so fascinated by that, and I'm going to get out there one day because I totally feel that pull, and that's amazing. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that story. So Jenny, how about you? What was your experience?
Well, when I was finishing up my master's at Pacifica, I decided that I wanted to go on a trip to Greece before I graduated, or right after I graduated. And when I got my student loans and stuff, because we were writing a thesis the last year, there wasn't as much financial support as I had thought that there was going to be. So I was like, okay, fine, you know, I won't go to Greece right now. I'll go and take a long camping trip, and eventually I'll get to do this. And then I went home to visit my parents in October to celebrate my birthday, which had been in August, and looked at all of their photos, and they had gone to Turkey. And I realized through looking at all of their photos that Turkey was where I wanted to go, not Greece. And as I was looking at them, I got really invested that weekend in trying to figure out how I could get to Turkey. I thought, well, I'll open a bank account for Turkey, and if I can't use the funds for that, at least I'll have set intention and put it out in the world that I want to go. And I started thinking, you know, well, if I got a group to go, could I get a flight that I didn't pay for? Because they had on one of the, I think it was, I can't remember, Expedia or something, they had a special thing where you didn't have to pay if you had a group go with you. You didn't have to pay for the flight. So I'm like just really jazzed thinking about how to make this happen and how to bring it about. And that night we go to see Lorena McKenna for my birthday. Oh. And Lorena McKenna, I know, I love Lorena McKenna, right? and Lorena McKenna starts talking about taking this trip to Turkey, and I can tell from the order of the places that she's gone that she went on the same tour that my parents went on, because it's in the same order as the pictures. And I was like, oh my God, the universe has picked up on this. The universe gets it, you know, it's going to start manifesting. And I told my dad, and he was like, oh, whatever, like a dad is. But I knew that it meant something really powerful. And I went home, and I asked people in the neighborhood if you've ever been to Turkey. It turned out the next door neighbor had been to Istanbul and showed us all these photos. Then I went to go to this women's group, and I said, I really want to go to Turkey. And they said, do you want to go this December? And I said, well, that's like a month and a half. And I was saying, well, before I die, I'll go to Turkey, right? And they were like, well, there's this group running a tour to Turkey. And I was like, oh, I probably can't afford it. And they were like, it's not very, very expensive. And I was like, well, at least I'll find out about it. And so in a month and a half from setting my intention, I ended up taking a 10-day trip in Turkey. And it was about the price of a long weekend and a fancy campground. Honest to God, it was, and I got a flight within Turkey to the middle of Turkey, and it was amazing. Like, we were wined and dined in all these restaurants and given all these presents, and it was crazy. I mean, just the people were so beautiful and so warm. We got to go into people's homes, and they made us these, 4-course meals. It was incredible, and I got to go with people who were in the Jungian Society in Columbus and who were poets and Sufis, and it was crazy. So that's what happened. It was amazing. It was an amazing, amazing journey. And I guess the takeaway from it, because you had asked about kind of a takeaway, a powerful experience that was changing that we hadn't anticipated, was we went to where the Virgin Mary was reputed to be buried. And at that time, because I had gone through getting my master's and all the struggles that kind of go along with that and all of the kind of, building yourself up that you have to do to take yourself seriously enough to do something like that, I had gotten kind of hard inside or real serious inside. And the women in Turkey were so loving. I mean, just so loving and so open. And something happened to me that was really profound when I lit a candle in there. And there was just this softening that happened around the energy of the divine feminine for me. And I came back and I was just different. And I was more compassionate and more open. And it was beautiful.
Wow, beautiful. It's amazing. I'm thinking back, and it's like when I was planning what I was going to say, it would be like, oh, hands down, my study abroad in Barcelona when I lived there for 6 months during college. And that really, it set the stage for so much of my life. But talking profound, it happened just a couple months ago in August July when I went to Sedona. Yes. And I have not been the same since. And I love that I haven't been the same since. I mean, I came home from Sedona, and I wrote the book that I wrote. And it was just
that fast?
Wow. I've done it in 3.5 months. And
wow.
It was a blog that I wrote about Sedona that somebody had commented on that just was like, wait a minute. If I can share my experience with people and have them relate on a real person basis, like I'm no celebrity, I'm not like somebody starstruck or whatever, like I'm an everyday person. If I can connect with people on that level, I'm like, why not share my story? And worst case scenario, hey, my great-grandchildren can know who I am. So, but Sedona, I know, really, I mean, I think if I had something from my great-grandma, I'd be, totally thrilled. I would treasure that.
Especially the juicy stuff.
Yeah, there was so much healing. I had let strangers into my heart and my space, and all intuitively guided. It wasn't just like, okay, I'm just going to rely on these people because they're there. It was like, wow, they were really there for me, and I felt safe, and I broke through so many fears and emotional blocks and physical blocks. I hiked a mountain. I've never hiked before. I hiked to the top of a canyon, and I didn't.
That was a cliff. Let's be honest. That was a cliff. Ghosts would struggle with that.
Psychotic. It was. It was crazy. And then I had this energy healing massage, which just blew my mind.
Wow.
And it was teaching me to marry two sides of myself who have been fighting my entire life.
Oh,
and it's
gosh.
just, the people that I met were so genuine. And it opened me up to so much that I came home and I'm like, girl, what the fuck are you doing? You're dragging your feet. You're not living who you are. You're like hiding behind this old past Jenny person.
Yeah.
And I just saw the possibilities, and it's just, God, I wish that experience for everybody.
Really,
like, even if it's just something around your house, like you're saying, like some things where you lived. Like, I just wish that awareness, that opening, that awakening for everybody, because once you can connect with who you are and what doesn't matter anymore, gosh, how much easier life is to live.
Yeah.
But I really feel it comes from that place of when the student is ready, the teacher appears, because I was there with you in Sedona, and I feel like we were all called there. I mean, literally, like when that retreat came up, I didn't have the money prior to that. Nope. Literally down to the wire, I got a knock on my door 30 minutes before tickets went live with a check and ran and deposited it and had exactly the amount of money I needed. Wow. I invited a friend to go who ended up not being able to go, and then all of a sudden I heard this name in my head that ended up being part of my soul group, and I barely knew her at the time. I was one of her clients, and so I contacted her and said, do you want to go to Sedona with me? And she ended up going, and it was just magic. I mean, everything was just magic, and I really feel like the spirit world facilitates that to get us all to this place to connect, to hear the messages we're meant to hear, and in a specific place, because what we need to understand is on our earth that there's energetic grid points around the earth that connect in specific points. And Sedona is a place of portals, and it specifically connects with higher energies. And the Pleiades are a direct connection to Sedona. So we experienced all of these higher energies. We experienced all these soul connections. I mean, just magic, really. And it comes from that place of when the universe calls you, you say yes, and you go.
Absolutely. And like you said, like I was finally ready. Like I've been on a healing path and connecting spiritually and everything, and I've been evolving along the way, but I wasn't ready to commit yet. There was but then I was ready. I saw that. I said, I got to get out there. But at first it was just like, oh, I got to go see David. I got to go hang out, and I'm going to see all my friends that I haven't seen who are in California, and it was all this play social thing for me. And I get out there, I was like, you know what, girl? Go take your, not final, but the biggest crux of your healing. Let's let it all go. And it was amazing. It was not expected.
Yes.
It was great. And yeah, I think it's because it was Sedona, it was a location, it was because it's a very spiritual place that I enabled it. But I think in general, I probably could have been anywhere with that group of people or that vibration, and
could have just magnified it there.
Absolutely.
Prior to that, I had small connections with some of them, but that was the first that I physically met my soul group. And it was like, and even prior to that, we all had separate rooms. And at the last second, some people canceled, and there were openings, and people were scrambling, and I get calls, do you want to sleep in our room and join our room? And the next thing I know, I'm in this room with 3 complete strangers who end up being my soul group. And then, and of all places, at the time I was living in Los Angeles, they all lived up in Portland, and now I'm up in Portland too. And that was not planned or destined prior to this, that all kind of unfolded afterwards. But yeah, it was an amazing experience, and I agree, it was a really magical group of people. I hope we get to do it again next year.
Absolutely. I'm down for that. So ladies, we are up to confession time. And usually during this segment, we reveal something profound or, where we struggled and release. But I think it would be really fun, given the nature of this conversation, to explore where we want to explore. Is there anywhere you haven't gone yet or experienced? It doesn't even have to be a place. Is there an experience that you want to be able to expand your awareness in? So, Jenny, let's take it over to you. What do you think?
Well, I'm getting ready to go on a trip to Peru in June, and I'm super excited about it. I used to do a radio show for this gentleman who's a shaman here, and he takes groups to Peru once a year, and so I'm going to get to go in June, and I know something huge is going to shift. I had a dream about Peru, being on the top of this mountain, and being on these stairs that were like very, very weather worn, and standing on these stairs and just holding my power and looking down into this valley. And then all of this energy started to generate around Peru and around the color orange and the stone Cursicola and all of this stuff that I started to gather. This was years ago, and it all felt like it's just very empowering and encompassing something, although I don't really know what. But I just know that once I go on that trip, something huge is going to shift. So I'm just really open and really excited to, receive whatever that is.
That sounds amazing. Ooh, I'm excited for you.
Thanks.
Yay, Rose, how about you?
Yeah, that's really interesting because when you first said that, I thought, well, my answer was Peru too, for different reasons though. Because of my experience with Egypt and the pyramids, and then I met a friend who also had a great awakening at the pyramids in Mexico, and I found out that I have lineage back to ancient Egyptian times, and then my other lineage is Peru. And so that was another place that by connecting the energies of your lineage, that things awaken in you. Your DNA and the cellular structure of your body changes when you visit these places. And so there's something really magical and special about Peru. And so I really think that would be a place I'd like to go. And then the other lineage I have that I haven't visited yet is Ireland, which is the other place you guys talked about.
It's so weird.
Isn't that funny?
I totally feel like you're a Celtic sister of mine.
I know, yeah, and I have a huge lineage with that. So yeah, I feel the same. So yeah, and I have an opportunity coming up this spring to go. So I think I'm going to say
Very
yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
You have to now, right?
Amazing. There's so many places I want to go, and if you want to know what it is, you're going to have to buy my book. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll buy your book.
I will. I'll autograph it. I will.
I will totally autograph it in person. No, but I want to go to Egypt. I've always dreamed of going there. There's so many little places. I'm not a huge metropolis person. I found that out when I was in Spain, and I went to Paris. I was like, okay. I was just like, yeah. but it's the little places. I love the Karate Kid movies. I want to go see Okinawa. I mean, it's really silly. My favorite soap opera when I was little was One Life to Live, and I remember a scene when Tina fell over the Iguazu Falls, so I want to go there. So it's it really is silly, but there's little things that, and I think these silly things are probably tied to something bigger than I even realize.
Yeah.
Because if I'm intuitively going, I feel connected, I want to see that. Versus, we come across places in Hollywood all the time, and I'm not I was never be like, oh, let me get to Vegas.
I think it's like what you said about Sedona, that you were led there thinking one thing and something else happened. And really, that's how it goes. The same with my story and with the stories we've heard tonight, is that you're led there thinking one thing, and you're left with a much bigger gift.
And that's a great point, because I think when we go into things, I know me. I'll speak for me. I go in with a plan, an itinerary, what I want to accomplish, what my purpose is, and I find that I'm usually accompanied by disappointment. Oh, it doesn't live up to my expectations. Meanwhile, when I just let it go, be like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do, just like with Sedona, I was like, okay, I know there's stuff going on, but I don't want to plan anything. I'll plan a massage, and that's pretty much it. And everything else just was amazing. So one of my profound things that I've learned throughout my adventures is to get rid of the itinerary and just go with it. Get
out of the way of the universe. Let the universe do its thing and step out of the way. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that brings us to the end of our show already. I mean, I've had so much fun. I could talk about this for hours.
I could too.
What final words would you have for our audience about travel experiences, spirituality, anything? What message do you have out there for our viewers? Jenny, how about you?
Well, just what you said, this whole idea of getting out of the way of, the ego, out of the way of your plan, and just embracing what's there for you. Just receiving, being open to what's there for you. And you can do that in big ways, like with travel, or you can do it in little ways. You know, if you encounter some sort of a block in something, you can go in a different direction. You don't have to like drive home the main point. And usually when you do, something else opens up that's so magical, and it's usually such a lesson and an opportunity to connect on a larger level.
Love that. Rose, how about you?
I would say be willing and be open and follow your intuition. When you get that little nudge that says, I want to go there, or an opportunity comes to you, you know, don't shuffle it away and say, well, I'm afraid, or I don't have the money, or it's not a good time. I mean, this is the way the universe opens up to you. It's that old saying that God sends you the boat, you know, the man on the top of the roof, and he's like, no, God's going to come for me, and you the boat. You know, take the boat, get on that boat, because it's going to be something amazing and miraculous, and it really is. And all you have to do is say yes and trust and allow and get out of the universe's way, and things just happen like magic, really.
Absolutely. And even when they don't happen like magic, look for the lesson and message in there. Like, where were you holding on to? Where were you not surrendering?
Yeah.
Or maybe it wasn't about, maybe you did surrender and you had a profound lesson that you needed to learn. Learn from it and just explore it. Be open-minded.
And
be Sagittarius!
Yes, perfect timing.
I know. So anyway, I want to thank you ladies so much for coming on and sharing your experiences with us. I would love for my viewers to check both of you out. You're both very gifted and talented. Rose, where can people find you?
I'm at www.oraclerose.com.
Perfect. And Jenny, how about you?
I'm at www.innervoiceintuitive.com.
Perfect. And I'm going to put their links down in the video below so you can just click and find them really easily. Thank you both so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
This is really fun. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
I loved it. So I'm Jenny Watson. You can find me at www.jennifer-watson.me. If anything resonated with you and you can use a little bit of coaching, I offer private one-on-one confessions coaching, so you can check me out. If you're interested in finding out about my life story, you can find Butterfly Travels at CreateSpace and Amazon Kindle, and I will put those links in the video below as well. I want to thank you for tuning in this and every week. I appreciate the support. I'm happy to announce that I'm taking a little bit of a winter break to enjoy the holidays with my family. So I will return back at the end of January for the rest of season 2. So I want to thank you for tuning in. I will keep you posted on the next show. Namaste and embrace your power.